Hey everyone, it's Alissa Coram here. Now, today I want to talk to you about early entries. Looking at charts, it can be tough to find the right spot to get in, and breakouts haven't really been working as much lately. So we want to be able to identify those early entries. So come along with me and I'll show you how to draw a good trend line to find a spot on early entry. Now you can use early entries for stocks and ETFs. So I'll give you a couple tips and tricks for how to spot these early entries. Let's take a look at the XLE ETF. This presented a great early entry at the beginning of 2022, the very first trading day, in fact. So let's take a look at the action on that day. So as you can see, there was a solid price gain over 3% that day, retaking the 50-day line. And if we draw a trend line from the prior high here and connect as many points as we can, you can see the trend line had the ETF that day clearing not only the 50-day line, but this trend line as well, which qualifies as an early entry. And we got some above average volume as well. It was right after that holiday period, but it did cross that 50-day volume average threshold. And a couple things to point out here about early entries. So I talked about clearing of a downtrend line, but as you can see, this is in the context of an overall uptrend. And we can take an even better look at that by taking a look at the weekly chart here. So this isn't in the context of a downtrend. This is definitely in the context of an uptrend here. And you can also identify the early entry on a weekly chart as well. So you can draw that downtrend line, again, connecting as many points as possible. There is a little bit of an art and a science to it. And the more that you do it, the more that you see us drawing these trend lines, talking about these trend line entries, you'll start picking it up. Now, the more points that you can have on that downtrend line, the better. If you're just connecting 2 points, that kind of makes a weak case for a trend line. Also notice the slope of this trend line. It isn't super steep. So if you have a very steep trend line and that stock isn't getting above, or ETF is not yet getting above the 50-day or 10-week line, that would be considered a pretty aggressive entry. But if we take a look at this entry for XLE, that allowed investors to get in right at the start of what has been the biggest trending sector in the market this year. So if you were able to get in on that early entry, you had some opportunities to even add to your position at the 21-day line, a reversal there, another test of the 21-day line as well. Now that you have that big cushion, you can use either a big downside reversal off the top as an offensive sell signal. Then you can look at closes below the 10-day or the 21-day. And finally, a decisive break of the 10-week line as opportunities to scale out along the way. But I do want to point out that not all early entries work like this, where you can just kick back and get a 30% gain. I mean, for example, take a look at the earlier base structure here. This also presented an entry for investors. So I'm going to go ahead and draw the trend line here. So XLE cleared a trend line in late September as well, after it tested its 200-day line a number of times, and it went on to make a nice run. I mean, from a low of 46, but if you would have gotten in that day, even at the high here, just over 50, it went from about 50 to 60. So you would have captured a nice gain there. Instead of, if you would have bought at the breakout, it would have been much tougher, didn't really make a whole lot of progress. But if you got in early on that early entry, perhaps you took some profits at that gain of about, that $10 gain, or maybe you waited for a break of the 21-day line, a level that it had held for a while as a signal to get out, and then ultimately a close below the 50-day or 10-week line before it's set up again. These early entries can be very helpful in making sure that you don't get shaken out of a stock. So if we look, for example, at this breakout that happened shortly after the early entry, I mean, XLE came down and tested that level after a gain of over 6, 7, 8, maybe even 10%. That tests of support ended up being successful, but if you would have gotten in earlier, you would have been able to withstand that pullback. But you want to make sure those early entries are quality and you're not just making an excuse for getting into a stock because it has a quote unquote early entry. So to recap, we want to be looking at breaks of downtrends in the context of an uptrend. Ideally, that's also accompanied by a retake of the 50-day or 10-week line. We also like to see volume behind that as well, and a close for the day and ideally week in a strong position in the range. All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching. I hope those tips and tricks were helpful. I know we could spend so much more time on this topic. That was just a little taste of one example. What is your best example of a trade with a good early entry? Let me know in the comments and make sure to subscribe to my channel to stay up to date on more trading tips. We'll see you next time.